Well, I can feel it. We're getting closer to that finish. That puppet master can't be too far away from us now. So I guess this will probably end up being the last in the series of the Alice in Wonderland game. Set. Maybe longer than the usual ones, but that's because, you know, I don't like to leave things at cliffhangers. Unless they're halfway through a series. As this one was. This should be interesting. I mean, Alice so far has always been an interesting series. Ooh, the last key in the fragments of her memory.
I had a role in my family's demise, but I did not start the fire. Centaurs don't live in Oxford, but a certain doctor did. I saw him, a preening undergraduate. Now I remember him. That key belongs to Lizzie's room.
Well, I think that more or less, you know, solidifies our belief about who exactly is the culprit behind Alice's family's brutal well, not too brutal, but sadistical murder. And it's certainly the psychiatrist. Did think he had a screwed up before.
My father would wish that you hold your tears, girls. He lived a long life. And as the poet says, like a clock worn out with eating time, the wheels of weary life at last stood still.
Well, so this is where the train docked at, eventually. I believe we're at the last stop now. Even so. I did have an inkling. I didn't think the psychologist was our ultimate bad guy until just then. Although it did seem strange, psychiatrist trying to destroy a wonderland. If that's somewhere she hides from reality, wouldn't it be safer to... I don't know, maybe there were hints throughout the game, I'm certain, that he was somehow involved. And there was also hints throughout this that Alice was resisting him. I mean, the fact that the hare was there, the rabbit, even though he kept saying, he said at the beginning, what's the rabbit doing there, you know, kind of thing. So there are some factors in here which makes you believe that Alice has been fighting from the beginning. Maybe her subconscious knew it all along, her subconscious buried in Wonderland. She's just been trying to piece it all together.
I'm no toy. He wanted me to do things I didn't want to do.
I just wonder now, since the Queen looks like a little girl, I wonder if she isn't actually from Alice's memories. You know, maybe the Queen when she was older looked more like Alice's mother or something. And now looks like... oh, yeah. If there was any confusion, that definitely looks like the psychiatrist. Yeah.
Am I not the most wretched and selfish of fortune's fools? Oblivious, I live in a training ground for prostitutes. My mentor is an abuser and purveyor. I've been complicit with my sister's murderer and the killer of my family as he corrupted my mind. I sought relief from my pain, and you turned me away from the truth.
You are almost there, almost free from what you fear. You could have been cured. You could have forgotten.
Abandon the memory of my family.
They are dead, and you should be too.
You misbegotten abomination. Murderer, you blood-sucking parasite. The damage you've done to children. The abuse.
I provide a service. In the great and awful metropolis, appetites of all sorts must be gratified.
My family, my mind, the infernal train.
The train is your invention, your defense. I merely set its schedule and itinerary. The train is coming with its shiny cars, with comfy seats and wheels of stars. So hush, my little ones, have no fear. The man in the moon is the engineer.
I'll stop that train, if it's the last thing I do.
As you wish, it will be. You're lost, and where your body is, your mind will follow. Perhaps it's already there.
We're not going to leave it there. Oh, hell no. I wouldn't let Alice be defeated there. But on the flip side, did you notice his nails were the same colour as her dress? And I think, thinking about it now, all of the bosses at the end of each stage have had some sort of colour scheme on them that's the same as her dress that she would be wearing. Oh my. Seems there's the ghost of children's past walking by. Yeah, time seems to have frozen as well. Maybe problematic. We're going to... No, not particularly sure, but I don't believe we can go into the building. That's some lovely signs listed about. Well, if there's one place the train comes from, I'll say the underground. But, you know, in case there's a side, that doesn't look like it's possible. I guess we are going into the London Underground, newly completed, to find the source of this madness, the corruption, the pollution of that train. And it's...
You oozing sore of depravity! Children wearing their names around their necks as if they're breeding livestock.
A declaration of their pedigree. You could use one. They're proud to display their provenance.
You brute! They can't remember who they are or where they're from. How many minds have you twisted into forgetfulness?
Not enough. Yours would have been a triumph. Still, you're an insane wreck. My work is done.
Is Alice really the stupid, insane one? He's the guy who's kept a key from the crime he committed, the actual house. I mean, wouldn't you ask questions? Go, why does he have the key to one of the rooms in Alice's house? Seems a bit like a big proof factor to me. I don't know why they didn't check him for it. And as for all this other stuff, never trust an Oxford doctor. These people, they all seem to come from the upper classes. They never care about the lessers. Seemingly they don't even care about their own class, because I think Alice is upper class. But, you know, probably not of his family. Probably didn't care. Isn't he dead?
I must stop this infernal train and the evil force that drives it.
Everything's a nail, is it, Miss Hammerhead? First it was your search, freighted with fear and fragmented memories. Now it's the train. Never time for tea. While your brain's on holiday, we're ruined. Now we're all mad here, and that's a good excuse for going to hell in a teapot, but not for forgetting what your senses saw. Forgetting is just forgetting, except when it's not. Then they call it something else. I'd like to forget what you did. I've tried, but I can't.
I thought the Hatter...
used me and abused me, but you will not destroy me.
No, the damage is done. The old Alice and her Wonderland retreat are demolished. You can't even recognize what's happened, and you're powerless to change it or move against me. I've made certain of that.
Arrogance.
Come to receive your punishment, then?
I know I'm guilty of something, but Punishment never suits the victims of the crime.
Abuse is a crime the strong visit on the weak. And you're right, abusers are insufficiently punished for the damage they do. Those who witness abuse without seeking retribution for the harmed pay a penalty. Your own pain mitigates your failure to act earlier, but you may not yet have paid enough for witnessing the pain of others.
You don't have to be a blind man to know what he's just suggested that psychiatrist has been up to. Poor children. Poor Alice, that could have been her future. It's a shame that
You
these
corrupted
people...
my memories, but you failed to make me forget.
I could have made you into a tasty bit. Clients out the door waiting for a piece from a raving, delusional beauty with no memory of the past or no sense of the future. But you wouldn't forget. You insisted on holding on to your fantasies. You're mad, like your sister.
Don't speak of her. You didn't know her.
Your sister was a tease, pretended to despise me. She got what she wanted in the end.
My Lizzie, what is this train's destination?
Oh, it was her sister.
Madness and destruction. You shouldn't ask questions you know the answer to. It's not polite. And that noise wasn't Lizzie talking in her sleep.
Oh, no. Oh, poor Lizzie.
And there are no centaurs in Oxford. Make your survival mean something, or we are all doomed!
That bloody bastard of a man. He thought himself a pimp and he tried to do this to those children. Not try, and possibly succeeded. And Alice was almost another cog in his wheel. But don't worry, I haven't lost a story game yet. Because it's impossible to lose. That's why we have retries. But in any case, it still makes you angry. Game though it may be. Oh my. It looks like we found the man pulling all the strings. We're gonna have to beat him with no strings attached. Yeah, we definitely got to beat him with no strings attached. And get rid of this corruption. It's a shame there's an achievement for beating him without getting any damage done. We've already done about half done to us already. It's annoying. But as I was saying, I'm wondering how they can make another game after this, because I do like the story, the way they've made this game, the way they've drawn it graphically, the way the storyline of it, very, very well done. You know, in some places I have annoyance, but maybe that applies to a different person's preferences, you know. On the whole, they've managed to maintain a very dark story. Very, very interesting until now. I'd like to see the idea of maybe an older Alice. You know, we've now seen her in London, we've seen her in the insane asylum. I wonder if she, you know, decides to go on holiday maybe, or goes down to the... I don't know, maybe she has a family of her own. Don't want to make too many suggestions to writers or game creators. Could wait till I have a job as a game creator or writer, or both. Both would be nice. Twice the paycheck. Interesting how he's fighting with that thing. I hope this has got more to this mission than just killing a hand. Is that? That's not his left hand, is it? If that is his left hand, then he's wearing a wedding ring. Oh my, that is his left hand. Who the hell is he married to? Oh, wow. Because I'm sure there's a silver band on his ring finger. Oh, that's just peculiar. We haven't seen a Mrs. Bumblebee, have we yet? I'm so hopeful that that hand will destroy that blue one there, so I won't have to keep fighting it. Yeah, shoot back there. Well done. Well done, other corrupted creature. What the? I don't know what happened, I think I won. Oh, he sent two hands in, and both of them are crippled, burned hands. Oh no, that's his right hand. My mistake, he's not married, never mind. He just has a fascination with shitty iron rings. I don't like the fact he's taking all these villages out of Alice's world and then just sticking a doll in their head and taking control of them. I think we all know what needs to be done now. Disgusting that we have to take his tongue. Very disgusting. What is with the fascination with babies' faces? He's a puppet master. I mean, those children, none of them are. He doesn't take them as babies, does he? He doesn't groom them like that. He grooms them through destroying their minds. What a terrible world we live in with such horrible people. It doesn't make me want to keep living this world. It just makes me want to allow him to keep in mind of how people that exist with you. Is that hot tea actually stolen this time? I cannot be sure. So now essentially this. Yeah! Yeah! Well. Final boss mission. A lot easier than I thought it'd be. If that is the final boss mission. So what happens now? What the? Well, she got a teddy bear back at least, but what happened to psychiatrist?
I'll see you charged. In prison, some half-wit bruiser will make you his sweetheart, and then you'll hang.
Indeed. A hysterical woman, former lunatic, roaring outrageous accusations against a respectable social architect and scientist. My God, Alice, who would believe you? I scarcely believe it myself.
You, monstrous creature. Such evil will be punished.
By whom? By what? Psychotic, silly bitch. Your madness will be punished. Now leave. I'm expecting your replacement.
That's magical. If you ask me, he got out of that lightly. Deserved far worse than the train track than being killed by his own infernal train. Ironic, maybe. That he couldn't even... that in the end, Alice was the one who used the train and not him. And her mind is royally screwed now, isn't it? Mushrooms are growing around London. Yeah. Well, at least everything looks bright and childish, which which is always a good sign. It's better than a destructive Wonderland, I suppose. I just wonder what happens to Alice now.
Alice. We can't go
Who's she
home
gonna
again.
live with? She's
no
just...
surprise, really. Only a very few find the way, and most of them don't recognize it when they do. Delusions, too, die hard. Only the savage regard the endurance of pain as the measure of worth. Forgetting pain is convenient. Remembering it, agonizing. But recovering the truth is worth the suffering. And our Wonderland, though damaged, is safe in memory for now.
Well, only the strong survive. True enough. Lasting all those chapters, I had to be strong. I had to recover for halfway through. For a good few months, but either way, it was a good way to end Alice. The PS1 game wasn't exactly, fair to Alice in general. It was a good game, it was a funny game, but its graphic content, atrocious. Good for PS1, but we're not in the world of PS1 anymore, are we? So that was a good game for the PS3 and the Xbox and whatever else it was on. Just wonder, is there a future for Alice the Madness? Strikes again, kind of thing. Is there going to be a third game? Or is there going to be released on the next console title? Because I think there should be. But even if there isn't, this was a good way to end the series, End Alice on a good note, as opposed to a bad one. At least we now found out who killed her family. And they lie dead at the bottom of a train track, because I don't think he got out of that one alive. Would have been nice to see if Alice, say, grows up and decides to own her own mental institute kind of thing and help poor unfortunate children like the one that Mr. Bumblebee were abusing to develop into pure mature people with no doubts bouts of her Wonderland craziness in between. Maybe she even gets a job or even goes back to her ceremony, her home, rebuilds her house or something. I don't know. Comes like the first female MP in the. Actually, this is around about 80s or whatever. It does occur to me that the Crimea War is not too far away. I wonder if Alice would be old enough to go to a real war, to go to the Crimea War or something like that, and be on the battlefields, maybe as a medic assistant or something like that, because it seems her craziness would have eventually led her to go on one of these strange, peculiar, truly abroad trips, and that's the kind of horrific, traumatic place that would dig up deep-seated memory problems and would most likely allow her to go back to Wonderland to hide from the reality of killing and barbarity, and then some miraculous ending, it helps her to overcome the problems there, and she leaves with a Victoria Cross and a house and a family, maybe meets her loved one. There's still some potential for Alice in Wonderland. It's just how old do you want her to be? I think since they've already made her, I'm going to assume 18 in this game. I think she's 18. It opens up the world to see if we can get her to 25 or something like that. How old can she be and still do her adventures? And if you leave long, year gaps in between, then you make another spin-off game where you go back in, what did she do when she was 19 kind of thing. How did she get from there to like a surgeon, doctor, nurse thing in the Crimea War? There are no doubt steps to get there, wasn't there? She was in a mental institute beforehand. What happened then? The kind of things like that would be nice to see. But with that said, with so much other things said, there's a lot of symbolism in this game. It's one of those games where it's not really necessary to play it, but watch what someone else has done. When I say someone else, I mean myself. Watch my old episodes try and look for the little hints, because I did in my first 20. They're quite detailed on looking around, and you may spot things in there that you didn't see the first time you were watching it, and go, ah, that was hinting at the later story. Or you go, well, they could have made the end. That would have made me think the end story would be like this instead. You know? I mean, for a good long time, I was under the same assumption that Alice in some way did burn down the house. You know? By accident. But even so, I mean, if we hadn't have found out till the end the background information that Lizzie never locked her door, the fact that she was locked into her room is very suspicious. The fact she didn't also get out the window like Alice did is even more suspicious. And I think the hinted fact was that potentially Lizzie was being visited by our Mr. Bumblebee when he was Mr. Bumblebee or whatever, back when he was a psychology student, and he may have raped her. I believe that's too strong a word to use, but everything else is equally as strong. Violate, abused is probably a lighter terming. But either way, he did something unprofessional, I think is the cleanest term to use. He did something unprofessional in his practices and tried to cover it up by murdering an entire family. Almost succeeded. In fact, he did succeed. Went on to open his own psychiatric ward, mental institute, where he continued his unprofessional practices, and then tried to break in the greatest enemy to his success, which was Alice, the only one who could actually place him at the scene of the crime, who knew what he did, who has the background knowledge to see where the mistakes were, and is also, you know, has an auntie, very powerful lawyers, in fact very rich herself now that she's intended to inherit the family fortune. So she was at a particular advantage to cause some problems for Mr. Bumblebee, especially if it looked like she was going sane. But in the end, she was right to kill him. I mean, if she wanted to get revenge, no other route was available to her. She could hardly leave him and, you know, go and do something else, because either she would just end up, he would put something out on her saying she's crazy, she's run away, and she'll go back in the mental institute, never do see the light of day again, or she would have tried it in court and they probably would have gone, well, we believe the psychiatrist, you're probably just making this up because you're crazy. I mean, it was that kind of time, Victorian times, when there wasn't things like the health and safety at work. There wasn't a lot of stuff about checking on child abuse and such forth. You know, it was just something that it was like, well, if it's in the slums of London, I mean, think of the Jack the Ripper. It wasn't until he had killed quite a few whores that people actually came after him, and they still didn't find him. There's assumptions of all kinds on where he was. An ex-royal, you know, a rich guy who had a very disgusting interest. There's so many reasonings they came up for him. But, you know, that's what games like this are good for. They show you that even in the form of an RPG, that, you know, the sky is not always blue, and it's definitely not always grey. There are times when things can be purely black and white, but the lines blur. You know, in this situation, we believed the whole way through, because we were playing Alice, that there's something fogging her mind, clouding her memories. A psychiatrist, their whole point of their job and existence is meant to be to dig up the most brutal parts of your past, so that you can look at them and try and find some solace in being able to share the knowledge. The fact that guy went out of his way at the beginning to try and erase her memory should have been hint enough to myself and anyone else who's watching that this man had an agenda, a very unprofessional, a very against the rules, and a very, very disgusting set of reasonings, and he certainly was not doing his job, because because that would not help a person. You bury their memories, all you do is lead to further confusion and destroy them. But at least we have all the keys now. We don't know all the bottles, don't know what they did. Shells obviously help. Don't have quite all the snouts. Or the other thing.